Captain, we've got movement. 3 bogies, vector 910. The young comms officer's voice cracked through the bridge like a spark. Commander Rayna Cole didn't flinch. She stood centered on the Sparrowhawk's command deck, one hand resting lightly on the back of her chair, the other holding a coffee bulb she hadn't yet sipped. The blue light from the navigation panels washed her face in cold hues, reflecting in eyes that had seen too much, too early. "Calm your pulse, rookie," she said, her tone sharp but almost amused. "We're just saying hello to the locals." Outside, the void was silent. 3 silver darts curved through the black, a shimmer against the starlight. Their motion was precise, almost predatory. Alien crafts, sleek and ancient-looking, moved with the eerie grace of creatures that hunted by instinct, not orders. The hum of the Sparrowhawk's fusion core was steady, but the air felt charged, as though space itself held its breath. Lieutenant Arjun Hale, science officer and habitual skeptic, was the first to speak after a long pause. His voice was low, deliberate. "Their approach vector isn't random. They're forming a containment pattern." "Blockade?" asked Mason Burke from the pilot's seat, his fingers twitching over the controls. Rayna tilted her head, watching the silver shapes glide closer. "Maybe curiosity," she said. "Maybe paranoia. Hard to tell the difference when you've never met a human." The Sparrowhawk's cargo was harmless, or so Command had said. A load of basic survival kits bound for the Eros belt colonies. Solar blankets, field med kits, modular power cells, portable purifiers. Stuff that could save lives in the rougher outposts of the frontier. But now 3 alien ships had cut them off as if guarding some invisible line. Arjun's console beeped. "Incoming transmission. Narrow band directed. Put it through." A sound filled the bridge. A low hum like glass being rubbed by a wet finger. It grew, layered into a strange voice that trembled with awe and fear. "We request parley with the keepers of the Arsenal of Worlds." The crew froze. Mason glanced at Rayna, confused. "Arsenal of what now?" Rayna raised an eyebrow. "They must have got the wrong ship. We're a delivery crew, not warmongers." But the alien tone wasn't mocking, it was reverent. The phrase repeated, slower, deliberate. "We request parley with the keepers of the Arsenal of Worlds." Rayna frowned. "They think we're carrying weapons." "Maybe our tech looks like that to them," Arjun said quickly, pulling data across his holo display. "Their sensors are primitive. The power cells, compact, high-density nuclear hybrid, would register as unstable antimatter to their systems. Even the medkits would read as nanoweapons." Rayna smiled thinly. "So our first contact moment is us accidentally playing God." Outside, the alien ship stopped advancing. They hovered in a perfect triangle, energy fields rippling faintly around them. The void shimmered with faint blue halos. Then, without warning, they backed away, fast. Engines flaring, they retreated several thousand kilometers in a coordinated pulse. The comms crackled again. The alien voice came back, this time trembling. "We did not mean offense, O makers of destruction." Silence fell over the Sparrowhawk. Every crew member turned toward Rayna. Even the hum of the ship seemed to pause. She exhaled through her nose and set her coffee bulb down. "Well," she said at last, "that's new." Mason snorted nervously. "Captain, did they just apologize?" Rayna's lips curved. "Feels that way." She leaned forward, eyes on the distant shapes fading into the dark. "Let's not correct them yet." Arjun hesitated. "You want them thinking we're gods?" "I want them thinking twice before pointing anything sharp at us," she replied. Fear's a strong leash. But beneath the calm tone, something in her gut twisted. A strange unease, like a thread pulled tight but not yet snapping. On the navigation screen, the alien ships kept their distance, watching. Their energy readings were spiking, fluctuating, oscillating between what Arjun identified as awe and panic. He adjusted the filters. "Captain, I think they're broadcasting something." "Translate." Lines of alien script unfurled across the holo display, symbols reconfiguring until words took shape in standard. "Bearers of the old fire, forgers of light. They return at last." Mason blinked. "They're writing hymns." Rayna stood silently, hands clasped behind her back, gaze locked on the distant flickers. "They're not afraid of us," she said slowly. "They're afraid of what they think we represent." The Sparrowhawk drifted forward, engines low and steady. The stars seemed colder now. "Arjun," she said finally, "scan their archives. I want to know where that phrase comes from." As he complied, Rayna stepped closer to the viewport. Her reflection looked back. Tired eyes, sharp lines, the faint scar on her jaw catching the light. She looked less like a hero and more like someone who'd made too many impossible calls. Her voice dropped to a whisper, more to herself than the crew. What if they're not wrong? Arjun looked up. Captain? Never mind. She turned, her expression hard again. Plot a slow retreat course. Keep the cargo bay sealed. I want no signals out, no signals in. We'll handle this our way. As the ship began to turn, the alien vessels mirrored the motion perfectly, still watching, still circling. For the first time since leaving Earth, Rayna Cole felt the weight of her insignificance against the vast dark. Yet somewhere deep inside, beneath fear and fatigue, something else stirred, something older, sharper. A spark of human defiance. She smiled faintly, almost to herself. If they want myths, she murmured, we'll give them one. The Sparrowhawk vanished into the starlight, leaving behind a rumor that would echo across galaxies. The makers of destruction had returned. The observation bay was quiet but tense. The stars streaked past the viewport as the Sparrowhawk maintained a slow course through the void. The crew gathered around the central holo display, eyes fixed on the streams of alien data Arjun had decrypted so far. They're reading our survival kits as advanced weapon systems, Arjun said, voice low, almost reverent. Every piece. The med kits, the water purifiers, even the portable heaters, they interpret them as modular energy weapons. Rayna tilted her head, a thin smirk forming. So our duct tape and thermo blankets are doomsday devices to them? Arjun nodded. Exactly. Their energy readings are off by centuries. They've never seen compact tech that's intelligent enough to self-regulate, much less multifunctional. Our kits are terrifying to them. Mason Burke leaned back against the railing, arms crossed, grinning. So basically we're gods with multi-tools. Rayna's gaze hardened. No, gods with targets on our backs. That's the difference. The ship hummed quietly, but the low, rhythmic pulse of the alien signal seemed to penetrate the hull, a vibration almost physical. Arjun's fingers danced across the holo display, analyzing patterns. Captain, he said finally, voice tight, we're not just gods. They're worshipping us, Rayna's brow rose. Worshipping? How many? He brought up the latest scan. Small shapes barely visible at the edge of sensors. One fleet forming at least 20 ships. More out there on the edges of detection. Rayna exhaled slowly, stepping toward the viewport. The void stretched before them, endless and indifferent. Scared people do stupid things. That's one rule that never changes, no matter how advanced they are. Her comms officer chimed in nervously. Captain, the alien vessels, they're glowing. Patterns, symbols, all over their hulls. It's like they're broadcasting something. Arjun translated as the script appeared on the display. His voice trembled. They're using our image. Not just our faces, they're calling us she who carries the end of stars. Rayna froze. Her reflection on the viewport stared back like a phantom. And that's myth-making, not warning. Exactly, Mason said, unease creeping into his tone. They think we're more than human. That we're some ancient force coming back to punish them. Rayna rubbed her jaw, the faint scar beneath her ear catching the starlight. Then we have a choice, she said softly, almost to herself. Either we correct them and risk proving it, or we let the myth grow. Sometimes fear is the better weapon. The crew exchanged glances. Silence thickened the room. Every crew member felt the weight of the moment, the precarious balance between survival and catastrophe. Arjun tapped rapidly on his console. Captain, I've traced the glyph patterns across multiple frequencies. It's not just a single fleet. They're communicating with systems hundreds of light years away. This isn't just fear, it's mobilization. Rayna's expression darkened. Then this misunderstanding just became a threat. A sudden alarm blared across the deck. Sharp, insistent. The ship rocked slightly as the autopilot responded to an unplanned microgravity fluctuation. Mason's hands tightened on the controls. Rayna's gaze cut to the viewport. The alien ships had shifted formation. Now they moved closer, not aggressively but coordinated. Arjun's console beeped frantically. Captain, they're scanning the cargo bay, everything. Rayna's jaw tightened. Let them see it. Let's see what they think of duct tape and solar blankets. Outside, the alien ships pulsed again. The light from their hulls intensified. Then, with terrifying speed, one broke from formation, darting toward a nearby asteroid belt. Its energy flares spiked, sending a shockwave across sensors. "They're scared," Mason whispered. Rayna's eyes narrowed, calculating. "No, they're learning. And fear makes them predictable. We'll use that." Arjun's translation flickered, revealing another phrase. "She who carries the end of stars shall walk among the skyborn." Rayna exhaled through her nose. "This is no longer just a misunderstanding," she said, voice low. "It's a legend, and legends can move faster than fleets." Outside, the alien ships hovered in the void, hundreds of glowing symbols radiating across their hulls. The crew stared in silence, watching their own myth come alive in alien eyes. Rayna turned to her officers. "Prepare for contact. But remember this, we don't start the fight. We survive it. And sometimes survival is louder than a weapon." As the Sparrowhawk drifted closer to the edge of the alien formation, the stars beyond seemed colder, sharper. Somewhere across the void, eyes watched. Beliefs hardened. And the first seed of interstellar war or legend was planted. The alien fleet kept their distance for days, silent observers in the void. Their presence pressed against the Sparrowhawk, a weight that no human hull could fully contain. Crew quarters were tense. Even Mason, usually the joker, moved with a cautious alertness. Every flicker on the sensors made hearts skip. Arjun spent hours poring over the alien communication logs, translating broken fragments of an ancient tongue. "They think Earth destroyed their enemies millennia ago," he said quietly, eyes glued to the hollow display. "They believe we're descendants of gods who burned stars and shaped worlds." Rayna leaned back against the viewport, sipping her now-cold coffee. "We only left Sol 100 years ago. The rest is myth and fear, not history." "Unless," Arjun added almost in a whisper, "someone or something else did it, and they're projecting it onto us." Rayna didn't answer. She didn't need to. The void was speaking for itself. Suddenly, alarms shattered the silence. Red lights strobed across the bridge. "Missile lock." Mason barked, spinning the ship into a hard evasive roll. Plasma flares erupted from the aft, scattering the threat. One alien projectile streaked past, detonating just outside the hull. The shockwave rattled the deck, but the Sparrowhawk held. "Warning shot," Rayna said through gritted teeth, voice calm despite the surge of adrenaline. "They're testing us." She moved to the tactical console, eyes scanning the formation of alien ships. Each hull reflected a shimmering pattern of symbols, prayers, warnings, dedications. She could feel the weight of their gaze, and a quiet, insidious thought settled in her mind. Myths can be deadlier than missiles. Mason's voice came over the comm. "Captain, they're waiting for our reaction." Rayna's fingers hovered over the deploy button for the nanodrones. The crew knew the drill. Humans had engineered countermeasures that were clever, subtle, and lethal in ways aliens could never predict. The Sparrowhawk released a swarm of reflective nanodrones into the void. Harmless to human eyes, invisible but terrifying to alien sensors. The alien fleet reacted immediately. Panic flared through their formation, engines flaring in a coordinated retreat. One ship broke from the triangle, spinning erratically before stabilizing at a safe distance. The others followed, jittering like startled birds. Mason's grin was almost visible through the tension. "Captain, we didn't even fire a shot." Rayna leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. "Exactly. Fear is more efficient than fire." Then the unexpected. Arjun's console flashed. One alien ship, the one closest to the asteroids, wasn't retreating. It stayed put, pulsing its hull with strange glyphs, transmitting data across frequencies. "Coordinates," Arjun said, voice tight. "It's broadcasting. All systems. Every major sector within 10 light years." Rayna's eyes narrowed. Then the myth just went interstellar. The bridge fell silent, the only sound the low hum of the engines. Rayna stared at the ghostly shapes of the alien fleet retreating into the darkness. Somewhere in the void, rumors had already begun to spread. Rumors about humans who carried the power of gods in their hands, disguised as survival kits. A faint vibration traveled through the deck, subtle but insistent. Arjun tapped the console, eyes wide. "They're listening. And learning. Every move we make." Rayna straightened, placing a firm hand on the tactical console. "Then we keep moving. Stay ahead. Let them fear what they don't understand. It's our advantage." Mason shifted in his seat, uneasy but trusting. "Captain, you're sure this won't blow up in our faces?" Rayna's eyes flicked to the viewport. The distant alien vessel still pulsing like a heartbeat in the void. "Nothing ever does that we don't want it to." But make no mistake, we're not just delivering supplies anymore. We're delivering legend. The crew absorbed her words in silence. The Sparrowhawk turned slowly, engines flaring, heading deeper into the belt of asteroids. Outside, the alien ship lingered, transmitting, studying, preparing. Somewhere across the void, fear had taken shape, and with it, a story had begun. Rayna exhaled, steadying herself against the tactical console. The first shot had been fired, even if no weapons had burned. And now, survival depended on human cunning, patience, and the terrifying myth of what humanity could do. The void was no longer empty. It was watching. The void was no longer quiet. Across sectors, alien fleets stirred like a slumbering predator awakened. Small scouts became squadrons. Squadrons became task forces. And at the center of it all, the Sparrowhawk sailed. A single human ship carrying what others saw as unimaginable power. Rayna Cole stood on the observation deck, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the distant blinking lights. Each point in the darkness represented a fleet mobilizing toward humanity. Somewhere in the void, myths had hardened into plans. Prayers had hardened into weapons. Arjun Hale's voice broke the silence. Captain, we've traced multiple transmissions. Entire civilizations are coordinating. They call it the Purity Accord. Rayna didn't flinch. A crusade? He nodded grimly. They've decided humans are a threat. Not because of what we've done, but because of what they believe we are. Mason Burke, usually restless, leaned against the railing. So all those myths we accidentally inspired. They're basically writing a battle plan? Rayna's eyes flicked to him, sharp and hard. Exactly. And legends spread faster than any fleet. The comms buzzed and an alien voice slipped through, calm but laced with steel. Submit or be cleansed. Rayna's jaw tightened. Tell them Earth doesn't negotiate with fear. A pause followed. Then another transmission. All who carry the old fire will burn the universe unless stopped. The crew went silent. Even Mason's smirk faltered. Rayna moved to the tactical console, fingers drumming. We're not just carrying kits anymore. We're carrying the expectation of annihilation, and expectation can be weaponized. Arjun leaned close, reading the alien symbols. They're tracking everything we do, even our defensive systems. They're learning, adapting, Rayna nodded. Then we become unpredictable. We make them chase shadows and ghosts. Humans survive because we think, because we adapt. Not because we're stronger. Strong is overrated. A sudden alert flared on the main screen. Mason jerked in his seat. Captain, multiple fleets approaching from the Zalora Rift. At least 30 ships converging on our vector. Rayna's face tightened into a mask of focus. Not attack, she said calmly. Observe. Wait for a mistake. They won't act like humans, they'll act like myths. Arjun scanned the incoming ships. Captain, some of their technology, they're relics. But the others, they've managed to integrate advanced propulsion. They'll arrive in less than 3 hours. Rayna's eyes narrowed. Then we have 3 hours to turn the chase into a trap. She turned to Mason. Pilot, plot a course through the asteroid fields. Make it messy. Make it unpredictable. Human ingenuity is our weapon. Mason's fingers danced over the controls, excitement and tension sparking in his movements. A maze of rock, debris, and gravity wells. They'll lose formation in minutes. Rayna stepped back, gaze returning to the distant void. And while they scramble, we'll move where they can't follow. Let them learn our reputation one painful lesson at a time. Arjun's fingers hovered over the translator console. Captain, one of the fleets, the one closest to the Eros Belt colonies, they're sending a different message. Not threats. It's a plea. Rayna raised an eyebrow. A plea? Translation? Protect us, guide us. Lead us, guide us? Mason echoed. Captain, they want us to be their gods? Rayna's lips tightened. Not gods, survivors, humans. We survive, adapt, and overcome. That's what we'll show them. The lights on the observation deck reflected across her face like flickering stars. Somewhere in the void, civilizations were already rewriting history, already deciding what humans were capable of. Rayna turned to her crew, eyes fierce, voice calm but commanding. Prepare for their fleets. But remember this, we don't start wars. We endure them. And sometimes surviving is louder than a cannon. Arjun's voice was low, almost fearful. Captain, if they continue to believe we're gods, this could escalate to full-scale war. Rayna's eyes flashed with determination. Then we make it worth fearing. But never forget, we are not myths. We are humans. And humans never bow to expectation, not even death. The Sparrowhawk's engines flared as it dove toward the asteroid field. Outside, alien lights flickered, signaling coordination, hesitation, fear. The chase had begun, and in the cold black void, humanity's legend was no longer confined to whispers. It was a storm. The asteroid field loomed ahead like a jagged wall of black stone, glittering faintly from distant starlight. Each rock spun silently, massive fragments drifting with unpredictable precision. The Sparrowhawk slipped among them, engines whispering, shields glinting faintly under impact from micrometeoroids. "Captain, they're following," Mason said, voice tense, fingers flying over the controls. "Sensors show at least 25 ships entering the outer belt." Rayna's eyes scanned the shifting shadows. "Good, let them come. They'll learn our speed, our patience, and the one thing no legend can predict." Arjun leaned over his console, eyes wide. "Captain, our survival kits, they're scanning them like weapons, right? What if we make them look like weapons?" Rayna smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried both mischief and danger. "That's exactly the idea." Within the cargo bay, the crew had rigged a series of nano-drones, sensors, and reflective panels across the survival kits. To alien eyes, the kits now emitted signals indistinguishable from compact antimatter detonators, modular energy arrays, and cloaked targeting modules. Each box became a phantom arsenal, a galaxy of false threats ready to deceive. "Deploy the decoys," Rayna ordered. The bays opened. Tiny drones swarmed into the void, bouncing and reflecting light, signals scattering into the dark. To human eyes, they shimmered harmlessly, floating specks of reflective tech. To the alien sensors, it was apocalyptic. Outside, the alien fleet hesitated. Ships slowed, thrusters flaring in panic. Their communications buzzed with alarm, transmissions overloaded with warnings and prayers, coordinates constantly shifting as sensors tried to keep up. Mason leaned back, impressed. "Captain, they think we're launching nukes." Rayna's lips curved. "Not nukes, imagination. Fear. That's always been humanity's edge." Arjun continued translating intercepted transmissions. His voice trembled with disbelief. They're debating surrender. They're arguing over which civilization should plead for mercy first." Rayna's eyes glimmered with satisfaction. "Let them argue. Let them see the human legend unfold before committing to war. We don't just survive. We manipulate perception. Fear makes them predictable." But even as the fleet faltered, a single massive ship separated from the rest. Its hull glimmered differently, older, heavier, exuding power. It wasn't retreating. "It was calculating, Captain," Arjun warned. "That ship, it's scanning the Sparrowhawk directly. It's learning. Faster than the others. I don't think it's afraid anymore." Rayna's eyes narrowed. "Then it's time to teach it humility." She directed Mason to engage evasive maneuvers, weaving the Sparrowhawk deeper into the asteroid maze. Every twist, every spin, every microgravity shift created a landscape the aliens could neither predict nor navigate easily. Arjun muttered, "They're not designed for improvisation. They'll crash, or at least slow down. Their fleet cohesion gone." Rayna glanced over her shoulder at her crew. "Human ingenuity isn't about technology. It's about thinking when everything is falling apart. When every calculation fails, you improvise. That's why we survive." Minutes passed like hours. Outside, distant flashes of alien energy flares lit the asteroids. Ships collided with debris or abruptly reversed course. Panic spread across their ranks like wildfire. Then from the heart of the fleet, a single transmission broke through. Crisp, commanding, and terrifyingly precise. "We underestimated the makers. We submit our coordinates. We await guidance." Rayna didn't flinch. She didn't gloat. Instead, she looked at her crew, voice steady and resolute. "We've turned a misunderstanding into leverage. But this is only the beginning. They think they know us. They don't. And that's the human advantage." Mason exhaled, a mixture of relief and exhilaration. "So we're not just surviving. We're controlling the battlefield without firing a shot." "Exactly," Rayna said softly. "Survival isn't about who has the bigger gun. It's about who has the sharper mind. Humans think. Humans adapt. Humans endure. That's a weapon no alien has ever faced." As the Sparrowhawk slipped past the slowed fleet, Arjun whispered almost to himself, "They'll never forget this. Humanity is no longer just another species to fear. We're a story they'll tell for generations." Rayna stood at the viewport, her reflection ghostly against the void. She felt the familiar, thrilling weight of command. Somewhere out there, civilizations were rewriting history in real time. Somewhere out there, humans were becoming a legend, and in the quiet hum of the ship, Rayna made a promise. Let them remember us, not for our weapons, for our will. The void outside the Sparrowhawk was alive with motion. Alien fleets that had once loomed like ominous shadows now quivered in scattered formations, their communications thick with confusion and fear. Yet among them, a single vessel moved with precision and intent, their equivalent of a commander, ancient and calculating, radiating authority that unsettled even the bravest human sensors. Rayna Cole stood at the tactical console, eyes sharp, voice calm. That's our target. If we want to survive, we either confront it or disappear entirely. And disappearing isn't an option this time. Arjun Hale scanned the alien ship's readings, brow furrowed. Captain, their technology. It's unlike anything we've seen. Even the fleets we've just manipulated, they obey it. It's a central intelligence, and it's learning faster than any single mind should. Rayna's jaw tightened. Good, let it learn. But it won't understand us. Not really. That's always been our edge. Mason Burke leaned forward, fingers poised over the controls. Captain, we're about to cross into their primary vector. They'll know exactly where we are. They could crush us with sheer numbers. Rayna gave a faint smile, one that carried both steel and defiance. Numbers don't win wars. Strategy wins. And humans. We're masters of improvisation. The alien ship pulsed a deep, resonant frequency, almost like a heartbeat. Arjun's console scrambled, translating shards of communication. The Maker's move. We align. Prepare for reckoning. The word reckoning hung in the air, cold and absolute. Rayna felt it reverberate inside her chest. A warning that humanity was no longer merely observed but hunted. She turned to the crew. Listen up. They think they know what we are. They think they understand our kits, our systems, our tactics. They don't. That's why we survive. Keep focused, keep calm. And remember, humans endure because we think faster than fear spreads. The Sparrowhawk dove into the densest cluster of asteroids, weaving a trail no algorithm could predict. Explosions rocked distant rocks as alien ships collided with debris, their perfectly coordinated formations unraveling like thread. Arjun watched the tactical readouts, muttering to himself. They're adapting. Too quickly. They're learning from our maneuvers, predicting some patterns. Rayna cut in sharply. Then we break the patterns. We do the unpredictable. That's what makes humans dangerous. They think outside the lines. Mason executed a daring loop, dodging a cluster of spinning asteroids, the ship's hull groaning as micrometeoroids scraped the surface. Captain, we're pushing this too far. One mistake and no mistakes, Rayna said firmly. Only choices. And this choice is survival. Suddenly, a pulse struck the ship's shields, a concentrated energy wave that rattled the deck and lit the hull with violet sparks. Arjun's console screamed. They've fired, but... It's not lethal. It's a scanning pulse. They're mapping our every system, every module. Rayna's lips curved. Curiosity before aggression. Let them look. Let them understand that nothing they've seen is the same as a human. Outside, the alien commander's ship pulsed again, projecting patterns and symbols in space like a cathedral of light. Arjun decoded fragments, voice trembling. The makers of destruction. Their survival is legend. If they continue, all shall fall before the storm they carry. Mason glanced at Rayna, unease in his eyes. Captain, they think we're the storm. Rayna's gaze hardened. Then we become the storm they cannot predict. Fear will guide them. Legend will blind them. Humanity will endure. The alien pulse struck again, more precise this time, attempting to interfere with shields and navigation. The crew felt the hum reverberate through every deck. Rayna stepped closer to the viewport, eyes narrowed. This is it. They've realized we aren't just a delivery ship. They've realized humans think. And thinking, humans survive. Arjun looked at her, awe and fear in his eyes. Captain, if they truly understand, if they break their fear, they could destroy us. Rayna's expression was calm, almost serene. Then let them try. Humanity doesn't bow to inevitability, we endure. And if they're clever enough to think we're gods, let that be their mistake. Outside, the alien fleet shifted, hesitated, and readied. Somewhere in the dark, across hundreds of light years, a galaxy began to take notice of humans, not as prey, but as a force that could not be tamed. A species whose cunning could turn myths into survival. Rayna's voice echoed softly in the bridge. Hold steady. Adapt. Survive. That's what humans do best. And in the void, the first true reckoning began. The void pulsed with light and motion. Alien fleets, once cohesive and terrifying, had fractured under the cunning of a single human ship. The Sparrowhawk glided through the chaos, silent and unassuming, its hull scarred from the asteroid field but unbroken. Rayna Cole stood at the observation deck, hands clasped behind her back, eyes scanning the distant lights. Each flicker, each trembling vessel told a story of fear, awe, and confusion. Humanity's legend had grown faster than any fleet could follow. Arjun Hale approached, voice hushed. Captain, they're broadcasting our movements to every major system within 50 light-years. Entire civilizations are recalculating their histories, their strategies, because of us. Rayna's eyes didn't leave the void. Good. Let them write legends. Legends move faster than fleets. They can believe what they want, but they cannot predict us. Mason Burke leaned on the railing. Exhaustion and exhilaration etched into his face. So when we did it, we survived, and they think we're gods. Rayna's lips curved faintly. Not gods, survivors. Humans endure, adapt, and think. That's what terrifies them. That's what they'll remember. The alien fleets had learned to fear the unknown. Ships trembled in space, scanning, signaling, trying to understand the humans who wielded survival kits like the weapons of legends. Some sent messages of surrender. Others begged for guidance. A few fled entirely, unwilling to face the unpredictable force that humans had become. Arjun adjusted the console, translating one of the communications. Teach us how to endure as you endure. Rayna's eyes softened almost imperceptibly. Not as gods, she said quietly. Not as myth. Humans endure because we never stop thinking. We never stop adapting. That's the gift. And the curse. The Sparrowhawk's engines flared, sending the ship past the fragmented fleets deeper into uncharted space. Every move they made left echoes in the sensors of alien ships. Every turn, every evasive maneuver became part of the story whispered across systems. Humans are clever, fearless, and impossible to predict. Mason shook his head in disbelief. Captain, they'll never forget this. Ever. Rayna finally turned, gaze meeting the exhausted but proud eyes of her crew. No, she said. They won't, and neither will we. We've changed the way the galaxy sees humans. Not because of firepower. Not because of domination. Because we think. Because we survive. Because we endure. Arjun's hands hovered over the console. And our kits? Rayna smiled faintly, almost playfully. To us, they're supplies. To them, they're the arsenal of the universe. That's the difference between humans and everything else. Outside, the stars stretched into the infinite, indifferent, and eternal. Somewhere, across countless systems, civilizations were rewriting history. They whispered about humans, the beings who turned survival kits into fear, myths into strategy, and ingenuity into legend. Rayna took a slow breath, letting the weight of command settle over her like armor. We've survived because we adapt. We've survived because we think, and now, we've left a legacy. The crew stood quietly, absorbing the truth of her words. The hum of the engines filled the silence, steady and reassuring. Somewhere in the void, humans had become more than a species. They had become an idea, a legend and a warning. Rayna returned to the tactical console, eyes scanning the horizon. Somewhere ahead, danger would rise again, but humanity had already proven itself. It was clever, relentless, and impossible to predict. And in the quiet of the ship, she whispered to herself almost as a promise, let them remember. Let them fear. But most of all, let them never forget what humans are capable of. The Sparrowhawk slipped into the dark, leaving behind echoes of myth, fear, and legend, a legacy that would endure across the stars.